It is time for us to begin. And our first conversation is going to be with you, Mr. Michael Smith, our Executive Director, beginning off and ushering in the town hall. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Senegal, and thank you all for joining us again for our third My Brother's Keeper Alliance online town hall. We are so much enjoying these conversations and opportunity to connect with all of you, to highlight the incredible leaders and innovators that are making a difference for our boys and young men of color across the country. Before I say anything else, I am excited to turn it over to our birthday boy, the chairman of the My Brother's Keeper Alliance Advisory Council, Mr. Broderick Johnson, to get us started. Broderick?
Thanks a lot, Michael. And actually, today's not my birthday, but this sounds like a good theme. Let's keep it going. No, today actually is my birthday, and I feel so honored to be here with such special friends, folks who are united in the struggle, in the effort, and the passion to change the lives of boys and young men of color, especially realizing how much you all matter to this country. So thanks, Michael, and thank you, Senegal. We're so honored to have an outstanding lineup for the third and final MBK online town hall meeting of 2018. Well, let me extend a thank you to my good friend and a fellow member of our MBK Alliance Advisory Council, the former Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan. We are so pleased that Arne could be here with us today for this important conversation about reducing youth violence. I'm also very excited that our friends from Chicago, that is the New Life Center of Chicagoland, are here to share their important work. The center, by the way, is among the winners of the recent MBK CRED Awards. That was a highly competitive process, so congratulations to the center for receiving that award. And it speaks about volumes about the work that they are doing in Little Village and saving lives and creating a safe haven for thousands of children in that community in Chicago. Let me also welcome back Senegal and Malachi, our Youth Advisory Council members, who will be hosting this town hall. We also want to welcome a new youth leader and young educator, Eric Horsley, with the Literacy Lab here in Washington, D.C. The MBK Advisory Council met with President Obama about a month and a half ago, and I can tell you again that his passion for MBKA runs deep. It's as deep today as it's ever been. He continues to be energized about finding ways to support and lift up the critical work that you all are engaged in all over the country. So I know the President is very proud to know that we are having another town hall today as well. 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago, we launched MBK from the White House, from the East Room of the White House. It's hard to believe. Time is racing. As you get older, time seems to go even faster. Well, as we think back to all the things that have been accomplished, it's been extraordinary, but we have so much more work to do. I just want to say, with regard to the past year, my favorite moment, I was going to say it was meeting Malachi and Senegal, but I had met Malachi 3.5 years ago. It's just so great to have you guys bring your energy, your passion, your leadership to this effort, and over the past year, you've really demonstrated it. So that, for me, has been the best part of this past year with MBKA. So happy holidays, everybody. Happy birthday, Broderick Johnson. Many more. Back to you, Michael.
Thank you so much, Broderick. Thank you for your words. Thank you for your leadership. While Senegal prepares to sing happy birthday, we've got some cupcakes here for you. So I'm sorry, everybody who's watching online, that you can't share these with us. But after the town hall is over, we are going to be enjoying some birthday cupcakes with our chairman, Broderick Johnson.
So I think the little happy birthday thing is in maize and blue. So
Yes.
for all of you University of Michigan people, go blue. See how much it matters to everybody that I'm really happy. So happy birthday to me. Thank you all very much.
Thanks for all you do every day, Broderick.
Thank you.
Again, Michael Smith here, Executive Director of the My Brother's Keeper Alliance. I am so excited to be here today and to have the opportunity to sit here with our chairman, with leaders and practitioners and innovators from all over the country, young people that are leading while they are young, not waiting to reach some milestone, but getting involved while they are still students and making a difference in this country. So I could not think of a better place to be today. I also just want to thank Malachi and Senegal for the energy and the leadership that they bring to our advisory council. And as soon as I am done, you will be getting leadership from them and with our other young leaders who are going to be facilitating parts of this discussion. As I mentioned earlier, we see these town halls as a chance to come together, to connect with one another, to hear from leaders in the field about the powerful work that they're doing, to make sure our boys and young men of color can thrive, to make sure that they know that their country cares about them and is investing in them. And so this is our chance to be together to do just that. So today we are going to be talking about the topic of reducing youth violence, which has always been one of the core tenets of My Brother's Keeper. And in our new chapter as an initiative of the Obama Foundation, reducing youth violence and providing access to caring adults and mentors is even more core to what we're doing. So we're excited to have a conversation about that today. I could not be more excited about today's lineup, as you heard from Broderick and from Senegal, including hearing from the former Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan, who, a man after leaving the Obama administration, could have done anything that he wanted to do, quite frankly, and went back home to make a difference in the lives of young people who are far too often look over. So you're in for a treat hearing from Arne. I want to provide you with just a couple quick updates. One, the My Brother's Keeper Community Challenge competition. Last time we had an online town hall, I was saying, just wait, the announcement is coming. We had made the launch back in April. We had hundreds of applications that came in. And so just last month, we were so excited and so proud to announce the winners of our My Brother's Keeper Community Challenge competition, where we are funding 19 organizations across 10 states and Puerto Rico. And they really represent the rich diversity of the boys and young men of color that we're serving, and all sorts of evidence-based approaches that are saving lives, that are changing lives, that are going to be replicated and scaled all across the country. We announced 10 impact winners. We announced 9 seed winners across the country. And we also had more than 20 communities to watch that we announced on our website. So you're going to hear from New Life today and some of the great work that they're doing. But go visit our website, obama.org/MBKA, and read about the incredible work that's taking place across the country. And we're just so excited to have the opportunity to invest in those, to lift them up, and to make sure that organizations that are doing good work have the resources and the support that they need. The second update that I want to give you is about our My Brother's Keeper network. Last time we were together, I told you that this would be something that was coming, and we've launched it. And so when My Brother's Keeper was launched by President Obama about 5 years ago, and the My Brother's Keeper Community Challenge, we ended up with 250 communities across the country. And so what we said is we want you to officially be a part of the network, to renew your interest. There have been a lot of leadership transitions, and I am excited to report that almost 180, actually more than 180, of the 250 have gone ahead and joined the network officially, re-registering, recommitting. So we're so excited. So if you're waiting, don't wait anymore. Go to our website, obama.org/MBKA, and join the network. And when you're a part of the network, not only will you be able to participate in online town halls like these, but you'll also have the opportunity to join our national convenings and lots of other tools and resources that we're going to be rolling out in the coming year. The last update I want to give you is about MBK Rising. This will be our first national gathering of the My Brother's Keeper network and everybody that is working across sector to advance life outcomes for boys and young men of color. February 18th through the 20th in Oakland, California. So this is an invitation-only event where we will be inviting all of those My Brother's Keeper communities, all of the foundation leaders and corporate leaders, all of the leaders of great nonprofit organizations that are advancing this work. So you should be getting an invitation from us soon if you haven't already received one. But, we realize that we may not know everyone that should be with us at MBK Rising, which is going to be an incredible moment of inspiration and learning and connection. So if you want to join MBK Rising, if you think you might not be on our invitation list and you are a young man of color between the ages of 18 to 24, or an adult who's doing exceptional work for young men of color, you can apply to join us in California. All you have to do is go to obama.org/MBKA/rising, obama.org MBKA/rising and learn how you can share your story with us to find out if you can have an opportunity to join us. And we're going to be providing for those people that join us free registration along with travel and accommodations. So we want to make sure, just like with the MBK Community Challenge competition, that we are hearing from the incredible people that are in this space and that you can join us in Oakland. And so I was also asked to answer that question, what is my proudest MBKA moment of the year? That's really hard. We've been fortunate to have a great year and to spend so much time with folks that are doing the work on the ground to make a difference. But I have to say, it was probably about 7 o'clock the night before we announced the winners of the MBK Community Challenge competition, and a few of us were in the office and we were doing the notifications, making phone calls and sending emails to the winners of the My Brother's Keeper Community Challenge competition. And I have to admit that, Burnell, I'm calling you out. Burnell Holland on our team and I, we both got a little teary-eyed. Because this is something we've been saying we wanted to do for some years, that we've heard from you that you needed resources, that you needed lift, that you needed spotlight. We knew we didn't know everything that was working, and all of a sudden this had become reality. And from coast to coast, from Puerto Rico to Albuquerque to Chicago, we were providing real dollars, real support to expand things that are working so that we're actually helping folks that are saving lives. And that had to be, maybe it was administrative, but it had to be one of my favorite moments of the year. So happy holidays, everybody. Welcome to our third and last town hall of the year. And with that, I'm happy to turn it back over to one of my bosses, member of our MBK Alliance Advisory Council, Senegal Mabry.
Thank you so much, Michael and Broderick, for your leadership, for your kindness, and for you welcoming us into the MBK network, Malachi and I. And so we just want to turn it over now to our seed winners. So all of you in the network can learn from them, learn what they're doing to impact youth violence. Interviewing them will be other youth board member Malachi Hernandez from Northeastern University. Malachi is laser focused on criminal justice and reforming criminal justice. So he is extremely excited to interview our seed winner, the New Life Center of Chicagoland, an organization that is constantly working to improve outcomes for boys and young men in Chicago by trying to impact gang violence, youth unemployment, youth pregnancy through their urban leadership core skills. So Malachi, please begin the interview process for Matt and Benny. And we thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me again. It's an incredible opportunity. I'm honored. I'm most, just definitely excited. I'm definitely excited to be here, to engage in this opportunity. We have Matt and Benny there. I'm excited to see you all. Congratulations, again, on being a seed winner. That is an amazing, amazing opportunity. And I just want to ask you, what does it mean for you all to be a seed winner? What does it mean for you to now recognize that you have some type of support from the MBK, community and family? What does that mean for you all?
Yeah, I think we're just excited to be able to connect with others across the city and really across the nation who have a similar heart, have a similar goal of connecting with young men of color. And so really proud to be tied in with that network, and then just be able to learn, have a space to learn, to be able to share what we've learned over the years and really walk together.
And can you talk to us and tell us about New Life in the Little Village community in Chicago?
Sure. Yeah, we're located on the southwest side of Chicago. So Little Village is really known as the capital of the Mexican Midwest. So around 80 to 85,000 residents, with about 50,000 of those under the age of 25. So it's the youngest neighborhood in the city of Chicago. We have, amazing food, street vendors, 125 restaurants. 26th Street is known as the second Mag Mile, so really behind Michigan Avenue as far as tax income that comes to the city. So it's a thriving neighborhood. I've lived there for the last 18 years. Benny is born and raised there, and so we love our neighborhood. And probably about 13 years ago, New Life Centers was started as a way to really connect with disconnected youth. And so our heart is, how do we walk with young people who have been pushed out, young people who aren't in school, young people who don't have a job. And part of what that looks like is really mentoring. And so how do we have men and women from our community be able to walk with young people from our neighborhood, life on life. And we average 18 plus months on a mentoring match We have street outreach. We have sports-based youth development. And so our whole goal is how do you live life together and create spaces for community with young people.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I want to ask you, Benny, can you tell us about Urban Life Skills program and why you think it's working?
So at the core of Urban Life Skills, we're a mentoring program, and that happens different ways. So it could be, maybe after school, a young person walks into the building and they have a mentor. So there could be one-on-one mentoring taking place there. It could be sometimes we do a lot of court advocacy, so going with young people to court that are facing some challenges. Being able to sit and have a mentoring session there but before court starts. A lot of pro-social activities that we do. So we try to incorporate the group mentoring there. So, taking kids out of the element of the neighborhood and trying to expose them to different things, whether it could be rock climbing. Man, we did a lot of stuff this year. And then, talking about why I see things, why do I think things that we work? I see a different culture rising in our neighborhood, where it was in the past where a lot of young people wouldn't I would say engage in conversations around peace, weren't quick to like jump into like some of the vehicles that we move around the neighborhood. I think we see an increase of young people saying like, what's going on at New Life, can I be a part of it? What is a mentor? And just having those basic questions being asked, I think, was a big sign that, we're moving in a positive direction in the neighborhood.
And now I want to post something. So there's a number that I have here. It says from 2016 to 2017, shootings decreased by 14% and homicides by 61% in Little Village. And I'm curious to know, how did you all manage to do that? What did that process look like? Because it couldn't have just been an effort on you all. Everybody has to be invested in order to kind of decrease numbers when it comes to shooting. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. I think just to give you context, George Roque and Benny Estrada have been doing street outreach in Little Village for the last 25 years. And there's been a war going on in our neighborhood, our community. They've buried collectively 120 young people. And so to have that violence and that those issues that we're facing is a big deal. And so what we started to do is come together as a community and say, it can't be about one agency. It has to be about collaboration. And that's what I love about the My Brother's Keeper initiative, is when we can put our own banners down, our own kind of logos down, and just say, hey, this is about our neighborhood first and the young people. And so for the last 15 plus years, we have a growing movement of agencies in Little Village. I think over 30 agencies now that are part of our Violence Prevention Collaborative. Citywide in Chicago, there's a whole new movement in the last year and a half called Communities Partnering for Peace. Agencies coming together across 9 different neighborhoods, 8 different agencies. Really those neighborhoods with the highest rates of violence, but we're creating a space for all of us to collectively work together, including a street outreach training academy, where we're trying to really raise the standards of street outreach, really learn from each other. And again, that's not easy. It takes a lot of just collective, how do we not make it about our individual self, but about us as a whole. And we're proud to say that those homicide numbers have been decreased in Little Village. Earlier this year, in February this year, the probation officer had to transition out of our neighborhood because there wasn't enough new cases coming in. And so those successes aren't New Life successes. Those successes are our entire community across 30 plus agencies being willing to work together.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And I want to ask Benny now, for those who are watching, if they want to implement this strategy within their community, or if they want to do something similar, how could they go about that, and what must they know? Because what's happening with you all may not necessarily happen here in Boston. What's happening with you all may not necessarily happen in Los Angeles, because it's different. So how could they implement something similar or potentially the same thing in their respective communities?
Yeah, I look at the organization overall, and everybody has so much love for our neighborhood, man, and are willing to give so much of themselves. And I think, for that, it's like finding people that really love their neighborhoods. I think, we have a team of credible messengers. Most of the outreach workers on the outreach team are from the neighborhood. I've grown up in the neighborhood. Really have kind of, had their own challenges and had somebody kind of walk with them through them. And I just think about like the young people that we have working for us now that at one point myself and George have mentored, and now they have an opportunity to give back to our neighborhood.
Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Matt?
Yeah, I think being willing to start small. I mean, we had humble beginnings in 2007. We started with 10 young people on probation. All of them had gun cases, and really walking with them. For the first 3 years, we didn't have any funding. It was all volunteer run. We walked with those young people. And then as that opened doors, we started to build bridges and connections, and not thinking you have to have it all together up front. And so start with the 5 kids on your block. Start with the 5 young people you already have. And I think a big key of it is let them lead as well. Give them the ability to shine, to be able to share, to be able to be a part of what's happening. I'll give you an example. We started a softball league 8 years ago. 6 teams, 16-inch softball. It's a softball game pretty much in Chicago, not played with gloves. You have broken pinkies because of it, but it's all right. But you only need a bat and a ball. You play some softball. That started with 6 teams. Year 2, 8 teams. Year 3, 10 teams. Year 4, we started on the other side of the neighborhood with the other street organization. And now 8 years in, we have close to 300 young people that play in that league in the summer across 2 nights and 2 parks. And at the end of the year, we bring them together to play against each other, really playing for peace and breaking down this invisible line that happens in our community. That started small, and through continued investment and work with the young people, have seen it blossom. So that's an example of what can happen.
That is amazing. That is amazing. And I want to ask you both lastly, before we pass it back to Senegal, what are you both most proud of about your work in Little Village?
I think definitely being proud of the fact that we've been able to reduce violence, but I also am proud of the fact that like we're raising like the next leaders in our neighborhood. So we have 2 young men on staff in particular that, had their own trials and tribulations, and as they found support like in the program, to be able to like go to school, come back and say like, I want this to be my profession. I want this to be my job. I want to be able to give back to the neighborhood. I think that's something that I can't put a price on, to be honest with you. So.
Yeah, I think for me, it would be back to that collective impact. We're able to create this culture and community where whether you are a young participant, a young man, 16 years old, who's coming off the streets, or whether you are a neighbor or a family member, that you're part of the community. And so how do we really call it a restorative justice hub, a hub for the neighborhood that we can be there. We're proud of seeing those numbers drop because that takes long term, but we know we still have a lot of work to do. And then to Benny's point, the proud that it's led by the neighborhood. I think there's something to be said when we believe that the answers to the challenges in our community can be answered by the resources and assets that we already have in the neighborhood, the young people, the staff, the mentors, the neighbors. And so the fact that we've been able to build it from the ground up, so to speak, is something we're really proud of.
And now I want to ask, and I want to get a bit personal. When we're dealing with youth violence, there's trauma that comes with that. There's trauma for the people who are responding to the scenarios and having to mitigate the situation, but then there's also trauma on the family members. So how do you all deal with the trauma that goes on with everything over there in Chicago?
That's a great question. I'll give a quick story. Kindergarten year of my daughter's 12, and in her kindergarten year, her best friend was shot and killed. She was caught in the crossfire and was killed. So having to tell my then 5-year-old daughter that her best friend was killed, seeing that trauma that I've worked with and worked around, then having to explain to my own daughter, who a 5-year-old can't understand death, really asking questions like, hey, Daddy, how'd they get the body back from heaven? Hey, Daddy, we can't go out on the porch. Hey, Daddy, did you lock the door? And then now seeing 6 years later, her processing that, asking questions like, hey, Dad, if Aaliyah was still around, would we be friends? She's going to carry that. But that scenario is true of every one of the young people on the south and west side of Chicago. And so our goal is how do you create this safe space, the community where they can talk about those things, where they can move forward, carrying that trauma, and doing trauma-informed care, CBT, peace circles are some of the tools we've used. But I think Benny can speak to that because he's born and raised in the community and has seen a lot of things happening as well.
Yeah, I think think for myself, it was just, having somebody to talk to at the end of the day that I can trust, and like getting things off of my chest that, I wouldn't talk to my mom or my dad or about. So I think that helps. And I think as far as like for staff, like being conscious of like, we don't look at like any young person that we mentor as just like solely we're the only mentor. Like we have a team of mentors that surround that young person. And so like having that support from like your teammate, if you will, or your coworker to say like, man, you know what, I was dealing with a lot yesterday. I might need to take the day off, and having that support and having somebody else step up on the team and say, don't worry about it. I'll take them to court. We can catch up later on and talk. I think, having that team atmosphere and that support as far as for staff, it helps out a lot tremendously.
And I think a final thought while I was thinking of it, the idea that we can heal together. I think you have to do this in community. We joke about it that every week one of us wants to quit, but it's true. And so how do we, whoever's week it is that's feeling down or carrying the weight of that, how do we say, hey, it's not time to quit. Let's get back up together. And then creating this environment of safety where if you need to talk about something, if you need to take some time off, if you need to get away, this is a 24/7 job. This doesn't end. When we have an emergency hit, we get that call. But how do you pace yourself? Because it's a marathon, not a sprint. And if we have that crisis all the time mindset, you'll burn out real quick. And so it's the idea of healing together and building a safe space to be able to communicate.
Yeah, that was an amazing last response, because I was actually going to follow up and ask, what does the work mean for you? Like if, I mean, I know that it definitely both comes from your heart, but just explain like why, like what is it that, you can get up at 3 a.m., if there's a shooting and want to go no matter what, and represent the young people there, represent the families and still be there. Why, like, where did that heart come from with you all?
I don't know. I'm born and raised in Little Village, and I think for me it's like very personal, because I have, I'm a 43-year-old man, and I have friends that, are still involved in things in the neighborhood. So, when some of those violence incidents happen, sometimes it's to a friend of mine, to his son. So things are like very, very personal for me. And I think that's what drives me to like help eventually at some point, like see the point we get to where like, both sides of the neighborhood can just say, you know what, we can coexist. Yeah.
And I think for me, it's a life calling for us. I mean, when I'm improving the safety of the neighborhood, it's for my 4 kids as well. We live in the community where we serve. We walk them to school, and then we walk to the center. And it's the idea that, again, building better together. And so I think that's how we continually get up, and having guys like Benny who have coached me, who have guided me along the way, and really be able to look ahead to guys who have been through it, who can guide us along the way.
That's amazing. And I just, again, want to thank you so much for your time. It was an honor to, be able to ask you these genuine and authentic questions. It was very, very deep. And I think that, people who are watching are definitely going to be tuning into the work that you're doing, and keeping an eye on you, because I think that you all are both doing amazing work out there. So thank you once again. And I'm going to pass it over to Senegal.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, gentlemen, so much for your practical answers to serious questions that impact boys and young men of color across the country. And we really appreciate the roadmap that you've given for our network to start making change in youth violence prevention in their neighborhoods. So now, again, I want to encourage everybody in the network to submit questions for the next part for United States Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan. We're about to introduce him and Eric Horsley, the young man who's going to be interviewing from Literacy Lab. Secretary Duncan is the former co-captain of the Harvard basketball team, the CEO of Chicago Public Schools, and United States Secretary of Education under President Obama. He's here talking about the work that he's doing now with the Emerson Collective, and we are so grateful to have him share his wisdom and his expertise in starting the MBK movement, because he's been here since the beginning. So, Secretary Duncan, we thank you so much. Eric Horsley, the young man who's going to be interviewing him, is from the Literacy Lab here in D.C. He's a burgeoning educator and a really smart, strong voice towards the future. So both of you, we thank you so much.
Again, thank you. I just want to thank you again for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Arne Duncan, thank you, Secretary. So just to kick it off with a couple of questions, Secretary Duncan, why have you dedicated to spend the rest of your career focusing on investing into the youth in Chicago?
First, please call me Arne. That secretary stuff is old, so I've always been Arne. So Chicago's home, and what Matt and Benny are doing in Little Village is so inspiring. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. Every opportunity I had, athletically, academically, socially, culturally, that city gave me. And coming back home after leaving D.C. in at the end of 2015, the violence was the crisis facing the city. And I grew up playing basketball on the streets and on the south and west sides. And when I was 13, 14, 15, I started to lose friends due to gun violence. And as Matt was talking about earlier, when that stuff happens to you when you're young, I think it shapes you and honestly scars you in some ways that are hard to talk about. When I ran the Chicago Public Schools for 7.5 years, there's a lot I'm proud of and happy to talk about those accomplishments. But the place where I honestly I knew I failed during my watch, during my 7.5 years, on average, we had one of our students killed every 2 weeks. Never in a school, thank goodness, but in the neighborhood, Blair Holt on the bus going home after school, Sarkeisha Reed at 7:30 on a school day morning in her living room, shot by an AK-47 from 100 yards away. And we as adults fail to keep our kids safe. And the level of fear and trauma young people are living with it's too much. It's too much. So coming back home, for me to come back home and not deal with this crisis, not try and do my little bit to help make the city safer, didn't feel like the right thing.
Yeah, I'm really able to relate to that, being from D.C. and somewhat of the same things going here.
Yep.
So just to get into my next question, can you share with us the work you're doing with Chicago CRED and how that's impacting the youth and the males of color in Chicago?
Yeah, and I'm going to get to Keishan and Khalil in a minute. They're the stars of this show. But Chicago's interesting. It's not a tale of two cities, it's a tale of 5 or 6 cities. But the violence, let me be clear, is 7 times worse than New York. We had 660 homicides last year. For us I keep saying, in a perfect world, I'd want to get to no homicides. That's probably unrealistic. I just want us to be normal, whatever normal is. We would have to go from 660 relative to population versus New York, from 660 to 92. That's how abnormal we are. That's like an 84, 85, 86% reduction. That's a massive reduction. But the violence is concentrated in 15 neighborhoods. It's 75, 80% of the violence in those neighborhoods. The vast majority of the young men shooting and being shot are young black men, 17 to 24. The profile of the perpetrators and the victims is the same. It's the same person. Almost no crimes get solved in Chicago. The clear rate, what the police do is, I'll be clear, they're amazing individual policemen and policewomen, but structurally, trust for the community is broken. So there are way too many crimes, way too many guns, no crimes get solved. What we're trying to do is give those young men a reason to put down the guns and to have some hope and to build a positive future and not just do it for themselves, but to be the community leaders we know they can be and want to be.
Again, I'm really able to relate to that, and that's one of the things I'm doing now with the work I'm doing. To get into my last question, if others across the country wanted to replicate what you're doing in Chicago, what advice would you have for them? Well,
I think what Matt said was so smart. We started very small. We started with 30 guys, and Keishan and Khalil were in that first cohort of guys. We made mistakes every day. We learned hard lessons. I always say these are men, not boys. We co-design. We're making mistakes. We challenge each other and push each other and hold each other accountable. But I think you need a couple things. One, men need to have an income. They need to eat. They're going to eat. They're going to pay rent. They're going to take care of their kids. And that's going to be in the legal economy or in the illegal economy. Too often, the illegal economy leads to the gun violence. So having a source of income, these young men work with us. But 2, what I call sort of the wraparound services, dealing with trauma. Trauma not from the last week or last year, but often for our young men, basically almost all their lives. Having life coaches step in, working through issues of substance abuse, being able to do positive things, serve the community. That combination of a chance to make money legally, but having a comprehensive set of wraparound services. We've had a whole bunch of our guys get high school diplomas. They write their autobiographies. Khalil's learning to code right now. Those are the kinds of opportunities. The final thing I'll say is that I always say our men are not the problem, our men are the solution. They are the solution. And so at heart, we have to listen, we have to walk with them, we have to empower them, and they're going to lead not just themselves and their families, but they're going to lead our communities to a safer place. 2016 was our worst year in terms of violence in Chicago. 2017, we were down about 20%. I don't want to jinx us, but 2018, I think we'll be down another 23%. We still have a long, long way to go. But I'm so happy about the progress we're making, and it's because our young men are stepping up and being extraordinarily positive community leaders.
All right, thanks again for sharing with us the compelling work you're doing in Chicago with our youth.
Before we begin, I want to encourage all of the network to submit questions for Secretary Duncan. He has a really fantastic program and ideas on how we can make our young men into leaders. So please submit those questions, and then we'll be able to ask them directly to Secretary Duncan during the program. So back to you, Eric.
Now we should turn it over to the representatives of the Chicago CRED program, Kayshawn Thompson and Khalil Warner. How you guys doing?
We're doing all right. It's Thomas. We're doing all right.
Hey, how you doing? It's Chicago CRED too, by the way. You were saying CRED, it's CRED.
Sorry, guys. Please introduce yourself and share your story with us about being part of the Chicago CRED, and how does it change your course in life?
Well, my name is Kayshawn Thomas, 26 years old. I started with the program back in 2016 of October. At first, I thought it was some type of like sweepstake offer. You know, somebody wanted to step in and make a change in my community. So I signed my name on the paper. You know, one thing led to another, and it was just amazing as going through the program that somebody wanted to step in my life and, you know, help me change it. And, you know, me not having resources or not having somebody to help speak up with me, you know, to job employers, or, you know, help find, you know, things with housing. You know, it was just amazing to me that somebody really wanted to, you know, impact my life in a great way.
You can go ahead, Khalil.
Do it.
Yeah, my name is Khalil Warner. I'm 21 years old. I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago. I got introduced into the Chicago CRED program at 19 years old. The way I got introduced to it was I was recruited through one of the outreach workers at Chicago CRED. At the time, I ain't really have any direction in my life. I graduated school, but it was a hard time for me finding a job, things of that nature. At the time, I was on probation. It was hard for me to find jobs. Throughout Chicago CRED, they helped me do and achieve many different things. Some of the things they helped me achieve, one thing they helped me, I got my driver's license through Chicago CRED. During the Chicago CRED program, I got into some more legal trouble. Chicago CRED, they assisted me with that as well. After the program, I was working in the factory, Pullman Sugar. I got my forklift certification. I did some OSHA training. Right now, I'm working in computer coding. So Chicago CRED is just helping me change my mind mentally. It's a lot of things that I didn't think I could do. And once I got into the CRED program, they showed me that it's a lot of things out here that I can do, but I wasn't in the right circle to know that I was available for that.
Thank you, guys, for sharing your compelling stories working through Chicago CRED. Back to you, Mr. Duncan.
I just couldn't be more proud of Kayshawn and Khalil and all our guys. And let me be really clear. It's not that we're making them leaders. They are leaders. They were leaders. These guys came to us as leaders. We saw that leadership ability very, very early on. It's just trying to help them steer it in a slightly different direction. And what they're doing in good situations, and what I saw Kayshawn do about a month ago in a really, really tragic situation that could have gotten even more tragic. His leadership, his moral leadership, his vision of where we need to go, again, not just in good times and really hard times, is extraordinary. And we have great days, we have inspiring days, and we have heartbreaking days. But at the end of the day, I'm like very, very hopeful. I'm optimistic, not in something unseen. I'm optimistic because I see what they are doing every single day to lead the city in a better direction. And if we can stay with this for 3, 4, 5 years, keep growing, we're now working with a couple hundred guys south and west sides. I don't think we're at a tipping point yet, but over the next year or two, if we can keep doing this, we have lots of amazing community partners. We always work to and through community. We don't come in, by ourselves by any stretch. I think Chicago, 3, 4, 5 years from now, could be in a radically different place. And all I want to do, honestly, is just give kids our childhoods back. I just want kids to be able to grow up free of fear, to be able to go to the playground, to not live with this level of trauma. I go to schools all the time. I always ask kids, how many of you know someone's been shot? Every hand goes up. Every hand. I'll say, how many know 5 people have been shot? 10, 15, 20. Sometimes it's still half the hands in that room are still up. I've never been to Iraq. I've never been to Afghanistan. I've never been to a quote-unquote real war zone. But make no mistake, our young people in Chicago are growing up in war zones. And it is not their fault. They don't deserve it. And it has to change. And these guys and others are going to lead the city where we need to go.
Thank you, Senator Duncan, again. Thank you.
Really, thank you so much, Secretary Duncan and Khalil and Keyshawn. We really appreciate you sharing your expertise on what's made you, how Secretary Duncan and Chicago CRED have brought out those leadership instincts in you all. And so we have questions from the network, and we really appreciate the network sharing in and asking you, how you can share more of your expertise. So for you, Secretary Duncan, we got a question from Chad Wright. What's the correlation between violence and education? I think what Chad's trying to say is, what is it about education that stops people, from experiencing violence?
Well, it's so important, and I go to Cook County Jail almost every month to recruit guys to come work with us and to learn from them and bounce ideas off. And I've never seen a guy yet in Cook County Jail who had a college degree. Most of our guys didn't have high school diplomas. We've had a lot of guys go back. Khalil did, most haven't. A lot of our guys, 13, 14, started to leave school early. And school didn't work for them for a whole host of reasons. And people often say, oh, it's so great you're giving people a second chance. Honestly, I think a lot of times we're giving guys a first chance. And that schools, sometimes families, churches, social service agencies, none of us were there when they needed the most help. And who's always there? The streets are always there. The streets are there in Chicago, rain, cold, sun, sleet, snow. It doesn't matter. And so I often start by apologizing to the guys and say, we're getting to you really, really late in life. And I wish I had known Keyshawn when he was 4 and 5 and 6 years old, and same with Khalil. So it's late. We can't go back in time, but they have this amazing potential now. But there is an absolute correlation between educational opportunity or lack thereof and ending up on the streets. Because, again, you got to make a living. And if you don't have the credentials, if you don't have the paperwork to make it in mainstream society, there's always the streets where you can make some money. And again, unfortunately, almost inevitably, that leads to violence.
Thank you so much. Please, network, continue to submit questions for Secretary Duncan and for Khalil and Keyshawn. I just wanted to ask the two of you, what brought you to Chicago CRED? Please let us know, what was the path that got you there? When did you wake up and realize, I need to make a change in my life, or I need to become a part of a program that's going to transform my outcomes and the narrative for me?
And I'll add one more just to put you on the spot. What's worked, but also what hasn't worked? What could we have done better? And again, you guys were our first cohort. We got about 7, 8 cohorts now around the city. So answer that question, what brought you to us? But also as we try and get better every year, with every next cohort, what can we do to improve the programming?
Well, before I got into the program, I was actually working with children in Chicago Public Schools as a recess aide. I thought that was my path. I did it. It wasn't working for me. I was giving up. I was throwing in the towel because I was brought in off my what can I say, my work ethic. I was brought in on that, but that really wasn't what I wanted to do deep inside. I love children. I have 3 of my own, but 30-plus kids, that was a little over exceeding the top for me. So I heard about the program through my youth program. They said, we have this new program coming in, and I'm thinking, I'm going to give it a try because I have no direction right now. I'm going to give it a try. So like I said, I signed my name on this clipboard, gave my number, and, they gave me a call and said, we're going to meet up. We had meetings at the bank. And we were going through these trainings, and they were having employers come out and talk to us. So we had an employer come out and talk to us, a construction company, and here we go. We got this clipboard and my name on the paper. So I signed my name again, and because he came in, he's talking about the company. He's just basically giving us, the good things that you can, get from this company. So one thing led to another. They gave me a call. They sent me on interviews. They sent me to get health screenings. They sent me through all this process to get unionized. And, I'm thinking like, oh my God, this is serious. These people really want to help. So after that week of, getting, through the process, hiring process, they called me like, hey, did you finish with the process? I said, yes. Oh, you can start Monday. Okay, now it's time, it's time to wake up now. This is life, having an opportunity to work in the field with these guys, doing all this, working around high-rise buildings and all these big machines it's a great experience. And, just to make the program better, I feel like we are better. But, like Arne said, let's get better, more, let's get more and more. It's just, for me, if I were to put myself in those guys' shoes, sometimes we get, we let our pride get to us, and, we want it so bad. We want it deep down inside, it just hurts, to just sit there. And I feel like I can talk to these, as in going through the program, I could talk to these guys. Look, somebody want to help you. Let us help you. You don't have to be alone. I'm sharing, experience with guys, like you're not alone. I grew up without a father too, so it's somebody that want to help you, let's get you out of that shell. Let's get you to talking to employers, talking to guidance counselors. They give us a life coach. Somebody to, share some personal background history with, so they can, I know you're struggling with housing. I know this, so I'm going to steer you into somebody that can help you with that. That is a great opportunity to know,
So before I got into Chicago CRED, how did I get into it? So I was basically just looking for a job. I was trying to advance myself. Like I said before, I didn't have no direction. I was kind of stuck. So I was really just looking for a job, and somebody wanted the outreach workers for Chicago CRED. They came to me. They told me about Chicago CRED, and I took it because I really needed a job, and it turned out to be much more than that. But something that I say that help Chicago CRED be more successful is something that you guys are already doing, is like thinking of different job options for these participants, like the computer coding. That's a good option, because most of the time it's really like labor jobs that we think of, and I think the labor jobs, that's really running people away from the job force some type of way, because everybody don't want to work labor jobs, and it's just a different scenery.
What we've tried to do, and we're always getting better, and we've been blessed to have some fantastic employers step up. We have guys working in hospitality, in culinary, in manufacturing, in construction. Again, Khalil's now learning to code. We have guys working at law firms now. We have one guy working at Deloitte, which is amazing. And guys have lots of different interests, different passions, so it can't be one path. It's trying to get 5, 6, 7 menu options and see what the best option. What's your passion? What's your genius? Let them figure out. Keyshawn, you were going to say something? Sorry.
I was going to say labor, and when we first started the program, like we were the first cohort, we had the two, we had a clean slate, and we had the deconstruction side in the Pullman area. I mean, it was us guys. We were looking at it like it was kind of tough, but then as we got into it, being able to go down there and just relieve stress, anger, all that hurt, and just being able to do a good deed for a community, but at the same time help myself, you just be able to get it out and look forward. Like we had our the term we use, Sankofa, looking back on your past to create your future. I look at that as a stepping stone. I don't want to be a statistic. I want to be something greater for my children. So laboring is hard, but you know, it helps to build you as a man, as a strong man. You know, just being able to be out in the field and working. You know, as you know, some on your mind. Just I work. You know, I get up every day and I feed my children. I'm helping somebody else at the same time helping myself.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your answers to those questions. Finding direction and you being able to pick your own direction in life is so important. And I think that really came off as key for our MBK network. We have another question coming in from the audience. They really want to hear from you two. Why do you believe young men have chosen violence over life? Where they put more value in street life than trying to better their own lives? And this is coming from Mika Osley. So you two could provide some insight for Mika on that question. Why do you think people are valuing that street life over, you know, what we see as a productive life to be in?
I think sometimes a way of that happening is that how it happens is sometimes when violence hits you, sometimes people think the only way that you can solve violence is with violence. So I think when a lot of violence hit people, they go out and do the same thing that occurred on them, and then it's a revolving door. But regardless of that, I also believe that.
I'm gonna just touch on that. I can say a lot of it stems at home. You know, if I grew up on the block and the people on the block helped me eat, helped me with clothes, helped me with money in my pocket, and you, it's like a bond. You know, I'm willing to fight for this. You know, because this is all I got. I have nothing else left in me. You know, if somebody that's whew, I'm getting a little emotional here. You know, it's just it's deep. You know, but you know, if somebody's willing to help me with just a meal, you know, I feel like I'm gonna fight for it. You know, that's where this violence is coming from. You know, just oh, y'all gotta excuse me for a minute. You know, I'm real emotional right now.
Let me just add, and I think to differ a little bit with the question, it's a really thoughtful question. I don't think our guys are choosing violence over something else because, unfortunately, coming up, that's all they know. That's all they are raised with. There's another guy in our first cohort, I won't use his name, he said, Arne, I was raised in a household full of guns. We didn't have toys. He said, I wish I would have had some toys. We grew up with guns. We're not giving guys, no one has to come work on our program. No one has to come do this. We have a waiting list for every single cohort we're doing. We're trying to scale faster. Guys have not had, they made a rational choice. 11, 12, 13, if you need to eat, if you need some clothes, if you need some shoes, and guys on the block are providing that, and they're the only guys providing that, that's the choice you have to make. And I don't, the big thing in this program, it humbles you. I don't judge. I'm the oldest of 3 kids. If my sister and brother weren't eating when I was 12 or 13, I would have had to do what I had to do to take care of my siblings. That's what our guys did. All we're giving them is a second choice, and they are flocking to that choice. And people always say, how did you find this first cohort of 30? We found these guys in like 6 days. Like, it wasn't hard. Yes. Like, people say people are disconnected. No, we're disconnected from them. They're not disconnected from us. They are ready to go. We have one of our cohorts has a waiting list of 186 guys. They're looking to change their lives. They're looking to do something. They know they're not winning on the street. They're tired of being shot at. They're tired of police chasing them. They're tired of not really making any money. There's another myth. Everyone's making a ton of money on the street. Most guys aren't making a ton of money on the street. They're looking to get out. We have just been absent from their lives, and we have to step into that gap. And they made a rational choice at 12, 13, 14, and they're just making a second rational choice now that unfortunately never existed before.
Thank you so much, Secretary Duncan, for Khalil, and for you, Keyshawn, for your wisdom and for your clarity in your answers to the MBK network on giving them really practical solutions to these very serious problems, and for sharing your emotion. Your emotion is very important, and being a part of the movement and being emotional is fine. So we thank you so much for that love and for that courage that you're displaying here on this live stream for our MBK network. We are almost out of time, so I wanted to thank all of our MBK participants. First to you, Eric. Just wanted to thank you so much for being able to interview Secretary Duncan and for being a part of the MBK network with us. For you, Secretary Duncan, for joining us, for sharing your wisdom and expertise. Khalil and Keyshawn, thank you so much for your love and for your energy and your excitement. Malachi, again, thank you so much for always being my partner down there in Boston. Very excited to see you soon. For Matt and Benny and your work in the New Life Center in Chicago, we really love and appreciate all of your wisdom as well. And Broderick and Michael, thank you for being a part of the MBK network and setting the tone for what we need to do to change outcomes for boys and young men of color. I promised you, Broderick, we were going to sing you happy birthday, so we're going to sing you happy birthday here together. Happy birthday to you. Come on, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. And so thank you so much, MBK. We had one quick question from Stacy Dallas Johnson. This: how can I become more involved in MBK? Please go on obama.org/MBK and look up and find what the MBK network is in your region and ask questions. Continue to be a part of town halls. Sign up for MBK Rising, which is happening in February, and we're all really excited about that. But we wanted to make sure you got out of here on time. So we really love and appreciate you still so much for being a part of our MBK network. Secretary Duncan, do you have any final words?
No, just appreciate you guys' leadership. What MBK is doing is so extraordinary across the country. And like I said, I just couldn't be more proud of Keyshawn and Khalil and all our young men. They are leaders. They're going to lead us where we need to go. And what they teach me every day is the best education I've ever received. So I want to thank you guys.
No, thank you so much. I think Broderick is about to come into the shot right now. Here it is.
Happy birthday.
Here it is. Happy birthday.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. Great job. MBK, all right. So, great way to celebrate a birthday.
Thank you so much to the MBK Network. We really appreciate all of you again for joining us. We hope you like the HD quality for our town hall today. We're going to keep giving you fantastic comments, fantastic speakers, and we really appreciate you being a part of the network. So again, thank you so much for joining us. We really love and appreciate everything you're doing for us. And happy end of year. And we're all excited to do more MBK work in the new 2019 and get more and change more outcomes for boys and young men of color. So again, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Hopefully you're signing off now. If everybody wants to give a quick goodbye. Bye, MBK.
Bye, MBK.
Bye, MBK.